Sponsored by Brilliant. Apple Watch Series 5 takes the world's best health and fitness tracker and motivator, connected communications and emergency contact band, and wearable computer platform and brings it all back full circle into just what might be the world's best watch. To find out, I've been testing a space gray aluminum Apple Watch Series 5 running watchOS 6.0 for just about a week, both while traveling in Cupertino, California, and here at home in Montreal, Canada. I'm Rene Ritchie, and this is the Apple Watch Series 5 and a whole lot of vector. Now, I get what you're thinking. A watch acting like a watch might not sound like much, but it's been one of the biggest knocks on the gizmo since launch. I've mentioned it in every review since, and so has almost every reviewer else. While it's tempting to exclamation point that with an obviously or a finally, when you look back at how battery and binary constrained the original Apple Watch was, it's not surprising it took a while. There was a short list of major features that were missing, and Apple has spent every year since knocking them off. Series 2 brought the power needed to make apps native. Series 3 added cellular connectivity. Series 4 pushed the display out to the edges. And now, Series 5 lets that display stay on all the time. It lets the watch, like I just said, be a watch. If you already have a Series 4, you might not think that's worth upgrading to. For me, even if it was the only new feature, and it isn't, it totally would be, but I can absolutely sympathize with that point of view. Thing is though, most people in this world don't have a Series 4, or any series. Despite being one of the most popular watch and fitness trackers in the world, and a product that's probably already bigger than the iPod was at its height, the vast majority of people still don't have one. And it's for them, the first timers as much as the upgraders, that Apple has been knocking those items off the list. So that's how I'm going to approach this whole review. All the little details current Apple Watch owners demand so they can figure out when and if they should upgrade, but also what's cool and compelling for those still waiting on the sidelines, watching, trying to decide when to take the plunge, and how. But back to the always-on display. In typical Apple fashion, they're not first to this, but they just might be best. There's no secondary display layer, no monochrome veneer, no special mode to toggle on or off, no separate kinda 1980s alarm clock looking face to be stuck with. There's just the existing watch faces, all of them, all now available all the time. Here's how it works. Previously, when you weren't using your Apple Watch, when you weren't interacting with it or tapping or turning it towards you so you could interact with it, it would just go to sleep. And it still does exactly the same thing now, only sleep no longer means the display turning off. Now it means the display staying on, but in ultra low power mode, in always on mode. It's made possible by the low temperature polysilicon and oxide, or LPTO display. It lets the Apple Watch dynamically adjust the refresh rate from the normal 60 Hz all the way down to 1 Hz. It's connected to a new low power display driver and high efficiency integrated power management circuit, all informed by a new ambient light sensor. That's on the hardware side. On the software side, the Apple Watch teams have crafted low power versions of all the watch faces. Low power in that the more costly animations like second hands and digits and Mickey and Minnie foot taps and the like all either disappear or stop moving. Bright colors dim, costly fills dim all the way down, adding faint outlines to stay legible. Photos fade, and animations like butterflies and Buzz Lightyear just go away. And that's it. That's how they stay until you wake them up again, just like the Apple Watch has always woken up. Since the moment Apple announced this feature, I've had a lot of people asking me if you could turn it off, some for power reasons, others for privacy. So yes, you absolutely can. Just go into Settings, Brightness and Display, and kill it any and every time you want to. But here's the thing, you may just discover the way it's implemented you don't want to, or ever really need to. First, if you're thinking normal 18-hour-ish battery life with always-on display means even better battery life with the always-on off, you'd be technically correct, but far, far overestimating the actual difference it'll make. Apple says it's not a significant amount, much less a life-changing amount. In my limited tests, it wasn't even enough that I remembered to mark it down. Of course, your needs and ability to notice might vary. Just consider the utility. If you turn the watch off completely, it'll stay charged for months. For all the good it will do you, battery is there to be spent. Second, if you're worried about privacy, Apple has built in a series of considerations for you to, well, consider. If you're worried about someone seeing a potentially sensitive notification, don't be. Notifications don't animate in always on mode. All you get is the tap or the tone, and if you want to see the banner, you have to wake the watch first. If you're worried about someone seeing sensitive health or personal information in a complication, don't be. You can go into settings, display and brightness, and hide sensitive complications too. Then instead of dimming in always on mode, they disappear completely. If you're worried about always on mode, even dimmed being annoying in a theater or bedroom or wherever, if the ambient light sensor detects a particularly dark room, it'll dim the watch even more. If that's still not enough, you can always open Control Center and flip on theater mode to temporarily turn off the display entirely. If you think it may be confusing that because you can see the screen just dim in always on mode, you'll try to tap controls while the watch is still asleep, well, you're right. You will. If you don't turn your wrist first to wake your watch up, the first tap won't activate the control. It'll wake up the watch. And because it's dim and not black, your brain will act like 1 + 1 suddenly equaled, geez, Danish or something. You just have to plow through the initial awkward adjustment period and keep going. And if after hearing all that, you still want to turn the always on off, hit me up in the comments and let me know why. I'm genuinely curious. Apple has also extended always on to the Workouts app and to all of the workouts. That way, if you're doing anything, stretching, swimming, whatever, you can see your stats without having to reach for your watch, even in the pool. But Apple hasn't extended always on to any other app, theirs or developers. So if you're in an app and you cover the display to put your watch to sleep, it'll just jump back to the watch face and go into always on mode from there. And when you wake it, you'll stay on the watch face. If your watch goes to sleep on its own, it'll blur and dim out the app, just so no personal data leaks. Then transparently layer a simple digital timestamp at the top right. And at that point, if you wake it, you'll still be in the app. It's an incredibly considerate user experience that I'm still getting used to. Being able to just glance at the time without having to move my arm or risk offending anyone I'm with is transformative. But it's also just a little showy-offy. Now, when I go out, especially if it's someplace formal or fancy, I put a lot more thought into my watch face because I know other people might see it. Likewise, if I'm going somewhere fun. Usually, during the week, infographic modular is my go-to. It's basically the dashboard for my day. But now, if I'm meeting people for lunch or I just want to give my godkids a laugh, I'll swipe over to the new Meridian or California in lieu of Hermes, even Solar or Mickey. Almost the way a traditional watch collector might mull their collection before choosing their look for the day. That might well fade with the novelty, but I'm enjoying it so much, I kinda hope it lasts. I've wanted always on since day one. In hindsight, I wouldn't have traded any of the other features Apple front-loaded first, like cellular or the edge-to-edge display, but I'm incredibly glad always on is here, and the only finally I want to give it is how happy I am it finally arrived. Every year when Apple introduces the new Apple Watch, they also introduce the new S-Series System in Package, or SiP, along with it. That's basically the entire computer that runs the watch, all shrunk down and layered up together. With Apple Watch Series 2, the S2 went dual core. With Apple Watch Series 4, the S4 went 64-bit. With Apple Watch Series 5, the S5 is going, well, wherever the hell it wants to go, because now it's got a magnetometer, a digital compass, and knows about direction. Sorry, yeah, as silicon updates go, it's not just not breaking Moore's law, it's a temporary cancellation of it. But Series 5 isn't about performance. We've got that, and it isn't about efficiency. The display system is handling that this year. It's just about maintaining everything else while always on ramps up. At least I hope that's what it's all about. With the A-series systems on a chip, the one used in the iPhone and iPad, Apple has a lot of competition. Samsung, Huawei, Qualcomm, maybe even Intel if you want to look a little further out. With watches, they really don't have any. That's because it's incredibly expensive to make silicon for wearables. So expensive, Apple's pretty much one of the few companies that do it, and the only company, to my knowledge, really pushing it. Other companies have reheated old phone chips, then reheated them again, maybe slapped a coprocessor on it. But they simply don't have enough demand from enough customers to have enough budget to do much if anything else right now. And I'm not sure that's going to change. And that's a shame because competition benefits everyone. It gives us more choice and it gives manufacturers more pressure. Apple is usually really good about competing with themselves, so hopefully this is just a lull before the next leap, because even with always on, we're still not all the way through the list yet. And no, I'm not talking about Apple Watch for Android. I think Apple Watch will go independent long before investing any resources in that makes any kind of sense. But I do want that kind of independence. And hey, maybe an Apple Watch that can stay charged for a week at a time. No pressure. There is a next generation version of Apple's W3 chip inside, which handles all the wireless communication for the watch as efficiently and performantly as possible. And the compass is cool. I was kind of blasé about it initially because we've had one in the iPhone since the 3GS, and I don't really think about it anymore. But having it on the watch now has made me realize all the stuff it does on the iPhone and the stuff it wasn't doing on the watch until now. Sure, there's a compass app, which is fun and probably beneficial for hikers and campers. There's also an API, an application programming interface, so developers can use it in their own apps. Some are just okay, like food apps pointing you at the restaurant you're reading about. Others are blowaway, like astronomy apps highlighting the stars above you while you turn. It also adds valuable metrics to workouts though, including inclination, elevation, and latitude and longitude. And when combined with the GPS, the barometric altimeter, topographical map data, and Wi-Fi, if any, it can show you your altitude for hiking, running, and biking workouts as well. By far though, my favorite use has been just directions in the map apps. While I was doing the battery life tests for the iPhone 11, I got run down. So I went to Victor Rose Coffee for some of the last cold brew of the season. The line was long, so by the time I got out, my friends had moved on. Thinking quickly, I told Siri to find Anthony, and a few moments later, the map popped up and the directions appeared on my wrist. I started walking only to realize almost immediately, thanks to the brand new compass on the Apple Watch, that I was going entirely the wrong way. So I turned the corner and there he was. Some features are big and fill in huge hulking gaps. That's always on display. Others are small and serve more to round things out. That's this. A digital compass nice to have that turns out to be really nice to have. When the Apple Watch got cellular networking, it came with a couple of big caveats. Because of its tiny size, it simply couldn't connect to enough radio bands to work in more than one place at a time. Apple had to basically make different models to support different parts of the world, and that meant no roaming. Except now, for Series 5, Apple has managed to squeeze in just enough bands, like maybe one per region, to support very limited international calling. International emergency calling, to be specific. It works almost everywhere, over 150 countries according to Apple, even when your phone isn't nearby for it to piggyback off of. It does require a cellular-capable Apple Watch because it needs that modem, but it works even if you've never activated the watch on a cellular plan and have no existing service. It's just there, all the time, ready and waiting to help if your Apple Watch detects a fall or you hit SOS at home or abroad. And that opens up an entirely new role for the device as an always available emergency beacon. Everywhere. I got a few family members the Series 4 last year just for the fall detection and SOS, so the rest of us wouldn't have to worry about them so much. Now, I kind of want to swap a couple of them out for the Series 5, the ones that live alone or travel a lot. I've said it countless times already, but I consider Apple Watch to be the most important device Apple has ever made because it deliberately, intentionally, by design, saves lives. International emergency calling is just one more in an increasingly long list of ways Apple is leading that charge. There are a few new finishes coming to Apple Watch Series 5. Not aluminum, alas, that's pretty much the same silver and space gray and annual shade of gold it always is. Same with Nike, except for the gold, which would actually kind of be cool to see in gold. As would some iPhone 11 style product red. There is some cause for jubilation though. All of these cases are now made out of 100% recycled aluminum. First the Macs, now the watches. Just keep going. Steel comes in the same polished silver and DLC coated space black as it has since launch, though this year Hermes also offers the space black option, and it looks Black Fire. White Fire is a triumphantly returning ceramic edition, which debuted with the Apple Watch Series 2, but vanished last year on the Series 4. Brand new for Apple Watch Series 5 is titanium. Lighter and stronger than steel, it comes in a similar DLC-coated space black, but also in a new brushed metal with a special surface treatment created by Apple that's meant to be as fingerprint and stain resistant as the black. The titanium looks quite different than the steel. Not quite the same as the aluminum, but somewhere in between. Enough at least to trigger anyone who insists their stainless steel lugs match their casings exactly. It's branded as an edition as well, despite being only $100 more expensive than the steel, because edition is where Apple's materials team gets to come out and play. It's watchy watch stuff for watchy watch lovers, inside Apple and out. And like I said before, it's just so exactly what makes Apple Apple and the Apple Watch a watch. Apple releases new seasonal bands for Apple Watch every spring, summer, and fall. In the beginning, there were also new styles every year. Now, it's mostly about new colors and combinations. Like I said in the hands-on, there's no ceramic or titanium bracelet, which is a drag. I'd love to see them. But there are some cool two-tone sport loops, hot new Nike bands, and Hermes prints. What's more interesting than the bands, though, is how you'll be able to buy them. It used to be in set pairs with the case. Now though, with Apple Watch Studio, you'll be able to mix and match your own custom combos, both online and at Apple retail stores. Hermes stays Hermes, obviously, but it looks like everything else is pretty much fair match game, and I love it. With the launch of Apple Watch Series 5, Apple may have canceled the Series 4, but they've kept around the Series 3. Now, if you want to see an Apple Watch Series 3 in 2019 review from me, just let me know in the comments. Either way, this bears repeating. At $199, that's entry-level iPad great. As much as Apple is pushing the latest to new levels of greatness, they're now leaving really good, really useful versions of the same products at lower price points and making them accessible to even more people. People who may not want to try it out at full price or simply can't afford to. Again, as much as some will breathlessly bemoan the lack of reasons to update year over year, most people in the world still haven't bought a single Apple Watch. The play here isn't just upgrading, it's onboarding. And Apple just gave a lot of people 199 reasons to think about the watch for the first time, especially as we enter the holidays. Well played, Apple. I'd even call it brilliant. Brilliant is a problem-solving website that uses a hands-on approach with storytelling, code writing, interactive challenges, and so much more. There are over 50 interactive courses for you to dive into, including a brand new probability course that covers everything from the basics to real-world applications to fun things like casino games. They're all built for ambitious and curious people who want to better understand the world and maybe help shape it. To support Vector and get unlimited access to Brilliant's courses and daily challenges, just head on over to brilliant.org/vector and get 20% off their annual premium subscription. Thanks, Brilliant. Thanks to all of you for supporting the show. So that's the Apple Watch Series 5, at least for now. I'm going to keep wearing it and using it and reviewing it over the next few weeks and months, and I'll be back with much, much more, maybe even with the new titanium. So, hit like if you do, hit subscribe if you haven't already, always on that bell gizmo so you don't miss any of it, and then hit up the comments and let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. See you next video.